The Celestial Empire, or Points and Pickings of Information about China and the Chinese, by George Mogridge. Chapter 16. Commerce and the 5 ports open to the British: Amoy, Fuzhou, Ningpo, Shanghai and Canton. The commerce of China will most likely considerably increase in consequence of 5 of her ports being opened to the British. The Celestials send away tea, raw milk, sugar, Nanking cloth, manufactured silks, cassia lignea, cassia buds, camphor, rhubarb, musk, aniseed, turmeric, orpiment, cinnabar, alum, white lead, red lead, brass leaf, false pearls, glass beads, paper hangings, toys, table and floor mats, chinaware, and the precious metals. And they receive opium, cotton wool, black pepper, myrrh, frankincense, asafoetida, saltpeter, sandalwood, shark's fins, fish maws, cow bezoar, pearls, cornelians, sea slugs, betel nut, nutmegs, elephant's teeth, rice, sapan wood, gamboge, tortoiseshell, beeswax, birds' nests, cloves, ebony, rattan's tin, dragon's blood, mother of pearl shells, gold, eagle wood, and other things. When describing the expedition to China, I told you that in 1 year the Chinese sold to the British teas, silk, and other articles to the amount of more than 3 millions, and bought opium, metals, and cotton to the amount of between 5 and 6 millions. Now, if we, after ascertaining their wants, can contrive, instead of sending them opium, to send them manufactured goods, doing them a service and doubling our commerce with them, what an excellent thing it will be for old England. You perhaps remember that in the Treaty of Peace entered into between the British and the Chinese, one of the articles provided that the ports of Canton, Amoy, Fuzhou, Ningpo, and Shanghai should be thrown open to British merchants, and another that the island of Hong Kong should be ceded in perpetuity to Her Britannic Majesty, her heirs and successors. Having spoken on a few points respecting Hong Kong, I will now give you a few pickings with regard to the 5 ports. May the British flag long float there in the breeze, and deserve and receive the respect that is due to the first and best nation in the world. Amoy, the first port of which I shall speak, is a seaport of some importance in the province of Fukien on the eastern coast of China. Its great gate is a massive erection with sculptured ornaments of dragons and fishes and inscriptions from Confucius. In the short account I gave you of the British expedition to China, I described it as a third-class city on an island of the same name, in an estuary of some magnitude on the coast of the tea district of Ao Khoi. When taken by the British troops, it was strongly fortified, and the citadel alone was near a mile in circuit. Its inhabitants can hardly be less than 200,000. The streets of Amoy are rather narrower than you would like, but as they have neither so many carriages nor people there as are to be found in Cheapside, they are likely enough not to be altered. Many are the temples of the place, and a few wealthy merchants dwell in large houses. But the most important feature of Amoy is its excellent harbour. This has long since made it one of the greatest emporiums of the empire, and one of the important markets of Asia. Fuchu is a seaport a little to the northeast of Amoy. It stands on the river Min, about 5 miles from the sea. Being the capital of Fukien and 2/3 as large as Canton, it is a place of importance. The narrow passage at the mouth of the Min resembles, in the opinion of many people, the Boca Tigris of the Canton River. The forts on each side and those on the hills have a picturesque appearance, being in ruins. May they long remain so. Fuchu is celebrated for fertility, commerce, and learned men, to say nothing of its famous bridge, of which I shall say something more hereafter. The hills in the neighborhood of Fuchu, or Fuchu as it is usually called, are rich in cedar, in orange and in olive trees, and adorned with pagodas and country houses. The scenery in the vicinity of Mingan, about a dozen miles from the mouth of the Min, is beautiful in the extreme, and not unlike that of the Rhine. The river contracts itself into a narrow span, and the mountains abruptly rise on each side several thousand feet in height. There are many places in the world in which I should more dislike to live than at Mingan or Fuchu. Ningpo lies to the north of Fuchu, on the mainland near the Chuzan group of islands. Qinghai, which was captured by the British, is at the mouth of the Ningpo River, and Ningpo itself is a dozen miles or thereabout further up it. The streets are much broader than those of most Chinese towns. The entrance into Ningpo is neither very safe nor very easy for large vessels. The place is about 5 miles in circumference and has around it some of the sweetest Chinese prospects imaginable. After its capture by the British, for a while it looked dismal enough. Its shops were closed and its deserted streets silent as if under the domain of death. But now, once again, it is a crowded and bustling city. The gay medicine stores, the cookhouses, the shops of rich silks and furs, the confection rooms, and the chinaware, with the boat building in the suburbs, and busy workmen in all directions, give a life and animation charming to behold. Poor Mrs. Noble Lieutenant Douglas Scott and others have reason to remember Ningpo, having suffered confinement there in cages after having been wrecked in the Kite. Captain Anstruther also knows what the cage is to his cost. Wooden cages or prisons in which culprits are kept in China are very common. They are about 3 feet high, 2.5 feet long, and 14 inches wide, having a trap door at the top, through which the culprit is forced in. Some of these cages have a hole through which the head may be thrust, but usually they are made without it. Unhappy is the lot of the poor prisoner who day after day and week after week is cooped up in this horrible confinement. Wang, art thou still a shopkeeper at Ningpo? Hast thou forgotten our memorable discussion on the Shu King and the light-hearted prank played thee by one of my companions of altering the inscriptions at thy doorposts, thereby making thee a vendor of fans and chopsticks, and setting aside thy calling of a respectable bookseller? Prosperous be thy daily affairs, and peaceful thy nightly slumbers. Shanghai is about 100 miles to the north of Ningpo, and standing as it does on the Wusung, which flows into the estuary of the great river Yangtze Kiang, or Child of the Ocean, is a place of very great influence and importance. If you consult the map of China, you will see that the river Yangtze Kiang not only flows through the empire, a distance of between 2,000 and 3,000 miles, but is the communication between the fertile districts at the mouth of the river and Nanking and Peking, the capital. In a commercial point of view, then, Shanghai is of immense importance, as no doubt the British will experience every year. And now I must speak of Canton. Canton, which is the European mode of pronouncing Kwantung, extensive eastern province, is the name of the whole province. Custom, however, has given this name to the city. In the provinces, there are 10 of the largest districts called Fu or Fu, 10 of the next rank called Chao or Chiu, and 78 of those called Un or Huiu. The city of Canton on the Chukiang or Pearl River is one of the oldest in the southern provinces. It may be about 60 miles from the sea, and its walls take in a circuit of 6 or 7 miles. Crowded with population, it is the most important city in the empire, excepting Peking, the capital. The city, the suburbs, and the river are all thickly peopled. Canton is famous both for manufactures and merchandise, and the number of foreigners who visit it is very great. Its houses are built, for the most part, of one story. Those of the wealthy are very elegant and magnificently furnished. There are in the place 600 or 700 streets paved with large flagstones. Golden Street, Golden Flower Street, Dragon Street, Flying Dragon Street, and Marshall Dragon Street are among them. The streets, on the whole, are very narrow, varying from 4 or 5 feet to 7 or 8. Sedan chairs are used, but no wheel carriages, coolies or porters carry the heavy burdens. If the place had not a very large population, there could never be in it, as there are now, 4,000 shoemakers, 17,000 silk weavers, and 50,000 manufacturers of cloth. Nor could the people employ, as they do, upwards of 7,000 barbers. There are beggars everywhere, and Canton has its share of them. One company of them is known by the name of the Heavenly Flower Company, a pretty name, truly, for a troop of long-tailed beggars. I have already given you the names of the foreign factories outside the walls of Canton, the masses of people that are seen continually in front of these immense depots, without any seeming object or occupation are truly astonishing. Whence they come and where they go appears a mystery, for no sooner does one part of the human stream pass away than it is succeeded by another. How are they fed and clothed, and where do they lodge, are questions that rise in the mind of every stranger. The crowd is visible by day, but how do they, of whom it is composed, dispose of themselves by night? In London lodging houses, human beings are packed up together in small compass, and this principle must be carried still further in Canton. It is true that at Canton they have a resource which we have not in London, for the river is open to them, where crowded in barges, sampans and boats of all kinds, they are herd together by thousands. Yet still there is much of wretchedness in the city, where poverty has to accommodate itself to many a loathsome abode. This is not the case in Canton alone, for in other cities and towns, though not to the same extent, the same consequences arise from the great amount of the population. The rivers, the canals and lakes teem with human life. The boat town, as it is called on the river at Canton, is an object of great curiosity to all foreigners. Here are crowded together the Tanka people in a vast multitude, with crowds of pirates and weird characters, the refuse of the city. The Tanka, or egg house boat people on the river, rank very low, so that the poorest peasant considers himself far above them. Poverty has many temptations to crime, and these people being wretchedly poor, there is much of vice and misery among them. This not only arises from themselves, but also from the abandoned characters on shore, who make the boat town or floating town a city of refuge from their pursuers, the officers of justice. 80,000 huts floating on the water, inhabited in a great degree by poverty, crime, and squalid wretchedness, are not an object to be looked on without emotion. Hog Lane is not exactly the place where I should choose to build a country house, though the foreign sailors are so fond of it. This dirty hole leads into the square before the factories opposite the landing place, and its small and crowded tenements and shops can by no means boast the best of inhabitants. Samshu is here plentifully supplied with other spirituous liquors, while clothing, coarse earthenware, and trumpery articles of all kinds abound. Pickpockets, cheats and vagabonds swarm in every part, and the drunken sailors are pillaged without mercy. Excess and riot and debauch are shamelessly indulged in, and Shadwell, Blackwall, and Wapping are left far behind in profligacy. Hog Lane is bad enough in the daytime, but at night dissipation takes the rule, and the place is avoided by the sober and the wise. The celestial shopkeepers can puff as well as the people of other nations. What think you of the following translation of an ink maker's shop bill? At the shop Teishing, prosperous in the extreme, very good ink, fine, fine. Ancient shop, great-grandfather, grandfather, father and self make this ink, fine and hard, very hard, picked with care, selected with attention. I sell very good ink, prime cost is very. This ink is heavy, so is gold. The eye of the dragon glitters and dazzles, so does this ink. No one makes like it. Others who make ink make it for the sake of accumulating base coin and cheat, while I make it only for a name. Plenty of Equantes gentlemen know my ink. My family never cheated. They have always borne a good name. I make ink for the Son of Heaven and all the mandarins in the empire. As the roar of the tiger extends to every place, so does the fame of the dragon's jewel, meaning his ink. Come all, Equantes. Come to my shop and see the sign Te Xing at the side of the door. It is in Xiu Shui Street, Smallwater Street, outside the south gate. There is no doubt but the shopkeepers who carry on their trade outside the walls of Canton get money fast. But what with the losses they sustain by their customers on the one hand, and the continual extortion of the lower grade of mandarins on the other, they have quite enough to contend with. Their mode of life is by no means to be envied. The sight of some of the Spanish dollars that pass current among the Chinese would surprise you. For as it is a custom with the accountants to mark them with a little stamp as they pass through their hands, so, in process of time, they get knocked and punched into such odd shapes and are so bruised and battered that you would hardly suppose they had ever been real coins. Should you ever live in Canton, you will soon look sharp after the number 1 first chop dollars when you make your bargains and purchases in the old and new China streets of the outside city. To go shopping is a pleasant thing for a foreigner, and if he have spare time and spare money, he may lay out both in a very agreeable manner among the chow chow, or mixture of articles most in repute. The word pu hua, no cheating here, over the door. The blackboard bearing the name of the shopkeeper announces also the goods he sells, whether it be silverwork, lacquer work, or turning and carving in wood, ivory, mother of pearl, or tortoiseshell. You are met by the shopkeeper with so pleasant a smile. He asks you, "How do you do?" with so much goodwill, and expresses his natural desire to do litty pigeon business, long you, so expressively that your heart opens while you look around. A cup of tea that he offers you from his little teapot does you good. You buy freely. Your purchases are put aside with the chop list of the goods for the coolie to carry to your boat, and on paying your account, some tasty little article, by way of cumshaw, present, is proffered you by the shopkeeper. Thus passes away a very pleasant hour. The novel objects and confused sights and sounds of Canton have at first much influence over the stranger. Trumpets and gongs and drums and bells and scenes of barbers, peddlers, doctors, meanderings, and crowded streets of ships with dishes, pans, beds, chopsticks, china lacquer work, and fans, and snakes and dragons dire, uncouth to view, of sculptured marble, glass, and carved bamboo. You have seen, I dare say, the carved ivory balls made by the Chinese. Some of these are not only very beautiful, but also very surprising. For how a dozen or 15 loose balls can be carved one inside the other of the most exquisite workmanship is beyond my knowledge. Plenty of these are to be purchased in the shops, and no doubt the long-tailed artists are not a little proud to be told that no barbarian has yet succeeded in successfully imitating their wonderful performances